the all-new WMEG Radio.
And welcome back to Business in Motion, a program that focuses on business and entrepreneurship from an Afrocentric perspective. I'm your host, RGL Biz Coach, and you are now in Perspectives. And as mentioned earlier, this segment we gotta talk and try and figure out what is going on. Why are so many younger ones graduating high school choosing not to go to college? I had mentioned to you that while in North Carolina, I was speaking to my niece who's very well educated, and she dropped that information on me, and I took the initiative to go and start to do some research. And I've got some couple of excerpts that you're going to hear over the next 30 minutes. It's got some really startling information. And also, I got some empirical data that I'd like to just share with you just for a minute here. And this is coming from the Education Data Initiative. And this is a team of professional researchers that have researched, compiled data, and have put it together here in this format. And I just want to read just a bit of it so that you can get an understanding as to what's going on. Some of the things that could be playing a role in shaping the younger people's minds as to why, they're choosing not to go. But, just take a listen to this. And again, when we're talking about a college student, we're talking about one who's attending a 4-year institution that actually gives a 4-year degree, bachelor's art, bachelor's of science, some type of a 4-year degree. That's what we're talking about on a full-time basis. But listen to this. A report highlights says the average cost of college in the United States is $36,436 per year, and this is per student year. And this includes books, it includes supplies, and daily living expenses. But now you're just getting started. Now that can still, if you think about it, that can run up a bill. That we're talking over $132,000 for 4 years if you're just looking at that alone. But then it goes on with the first bullet. It states that the average cost of college has more than doubled in the 21st century, with an annual growth rate of 2% over the past 10 years. So for over the past 10 years, college has been going up 2% per year. Next bullet says the average in-state student attending a public 4-year institution spends $26,027 for one academic year. Next bullet. The average cost of in-state tuition alone is $9,678. Out-of-state tuition averages $27,091. That's just amazing. I think about when I first attended North Carolina A&T State University. It was less than $1,000 per semester, and that covered room, board, activity stickers, and all sorts of things. So, I guess I really got a bargain away. Either we've been experiencing some serious inflation since that time. Well, I know they don't cost the same anymore, but just think about that in comparison. All right, next bullet says the average private nonprofit university student spends a total of $55,840 per academic year living on campus. So $38,768 of it on tuition and fees. So out of that $55,840, you're talking, close to $39,000 just on tuition and fees. I mean, that's quite a bit of money. And then the last bullet here, it states that considering student loan, interest, and loss of income, the ultimate cost of a bachelor's degree can exceed, listen to this number, $500,000. Wow, that's a lot of money, and that's for 4 years. Now, again, they're taking into consideration not just the actual cost itself, but so many people get loans, and they have to pay interest on those loans, and a lot of times they go on for years and years and years. So by the time you calculate the interest, the actual costs, and then you factor in lost income. In other words, what the income that these students would have learned if they had gotten into the job market immediately or into business or whatever they might have been pursuing. You factor all of it in, you're talking close to $500,000. Wow. I mean, that's a huge number for the bachelor's degree. So, one of the big questions is what? Well, if they're not going to college then exactly what's going on, or what do they happen to be doing. And while at my family reunion, I happened to be speaking to another one of my great nephews who attended Iona University up in New York, and after freshman year he's decided he's not going to go back, or at least he's going to take at least a year off. He wants to pursue some other professions where the 4-year degree is not needed. And he also stated to me that he felt that his high school was so good that he learned most of the information that they were teaching him in his first year in college. But I mean, it's just amazing. And I look at it because I'm pro education. Obviously, I've spent 19-20 years of my life in schooling, and still continue to study as much as I can and learn as much as I can, even though I'm not in the formal institution. I consider doing it, but just formal education myself, I'm between 19 and 20 years. So, I'm kind of biased in that way. And, my information was, look, maybe you were at the wrong university, try it another way. And, I spoke to his aunt, who happens to be my niece, and, she kind of laid it on me. She said he's interested in being an influencer or getting into technology. And I'll have to admit that you can pursue a career in technology, and you can complete training in about 6 months and get out there and make just as much money as many other people, in some cases more money than those who did attain the 4-year degree. So those things, they've got to be taken into consideration. That's what the younger people are doing. What I want you to check out right now is this excerpt. It runs for about 7 minutes, and it's entitled "College Enrollment Drop for the 6th Year in a Row." And a lot of these things are taken to, just realize that a lot of this has happened since COVID-19, since the pandemic, when everything got shut down. I guess it just gave people time to reflect back on their lives and, where they're going and where they've come from. And everything has changed since COVID-19. But check this out. It's only about 7 minutes, and we'll come back and discuss it.
Is enrollment down? If so, how much? And is it because of the pandemic, or did it start before the pandemic?
Yeah, recent numbers on enrollment rates suggest that enrollment is down. This is the 6th year that enrollment is down. So it was starting to decline before the pandemic took hold, but the pandemic knocked a lot of high schoolers and young adults off their college-going plans. So we hear a lot, David, about the learning loss in elementary schools and high schools. I think another thing we really have to be focused on is how many graduating seniors would have otherwise enrolled in college who haven't, and they haven't come back yet. So this is concerning.
And how much of it's the cost of the whole thing? Because you saw that Wall Street Journal poll that said something like 56% of Americans don't believe a college degree is worth the price.
Yeah, I found those polling numbers really quite troubling. So as you mentioned, a small majority, but a majority nonetheless of American adults now doubt that a college degree is worth it. And that is that's just emphatically not true. So in general, people who graduate with a 4-year college degree will make back the amount of money that if they made good decisions that they would have paid to get that degree. So a college degree is still, an excellent investment in one's economic future. We know that college degree holders, 4-year college degree holders in particular, have an easier time finding work. They command much higher earnings when they do work, even in today's tight labor market. But as you mentioned, the price is it's hard to figure out. And so a lot of people actually think getting a college degree would be more expensive than it would be for them in particular.
Melissa, you mentioned the relative lack of transparency on exactly knowing what the cost is. It's hard to do a cost-benefit analysis if you don't know what the cost side is, whatever the benefit side is. Why is it so opaque?
They have their sticker price, their tuition price. That's their all-in price, what they charge people who can pay full price. That's also what they charge the government for people who are paying on behalf of others. But that's not what an individual student pays. So about 3/4 of students at 4-year institutions are getting some form of aid. And so it's just really hard for students to figure out until they've gone through the whole process of applying for financial aid, filling out the FAFSA, how much any individual school will take. There are a lot of efforts underway to make that pricing more transparent so students can figure out earlier in the process. But I think the real message that needs to get out is that students should not be discouraged from applying to flagship schools, selective four-year schools, because they think they can't afford it. They should go through the process. Students who go to selective schools, who go to four-year degrees seeking, degree granting schools, they tend to have better outcomes. Those schools often have more resources and are better able to serve their students. So students should not be discouraged from applying, and they should take advantage of information that's out there, net cost calculators, information on school websites, to figure out what on average is a typical student paying to attend this school. And by the way, people should make smart choices. Like, public schools charge a lot less than private schools. So getting back to why a lot of people don't think a school is worth it, or pursuing a college degree is worth it, you could get a lot of really good deals if you're looking at public four-year institutions as opposed to private, especially if you're looking at in-state tuition. Those net prices are much lower for typical students, and people should take that into account when they decide where to go.
So typically in economics, as I understand it, you understand it much better than I do, in supply and demand, if the supply starts to come down, that might put some pressure on the system. If in fact we're getting less enrollment, do you see any indication some of these institutions of higher learning are saying, we got to get our act together, we got to be, for example, more transparent, more direct, and by the way, even give a sense over the 4 years what's going to happen in the out years, because one issue is how much you're going to raise it once I get in.
Unambiguously, the decline in enrollment is not an encouraging trend. Whatever pressures it might put on some schools that are losing students, I think the decline in enrollment is really troubling because, as we said, a college degree really does grant an earnings premium to students who attend and complete a four-year degree. So the earnings premium going to college workers was rising tremendously in the 1980s and 1990s, when demand for college-level skills really took off and the supply of college-educated workers didn't keep up. Since 2000, that wage premium has stalled, but importantly, it is still tremendously high. So in a typical year, let's just take 2019, before the pandemic, someone with a four-year college degree on average would make about 88% more a year than a full-time full-year worker with just a high school degree.
When you talk about the earnings premium, it surely must depend in part upon what you study and what the line of work you go into, right? I mean, I can just imagine, for example, what the demands are right now for sort of technology, and some of the expertise in technology are very different from what they were 30 years ago.
Absolutely, and this is a really important point. So in general, even though I'm really emphasizing that a college degree is a good investment in one's future, the fact of the matter is not all institutions and not all majors deliver large earnings premiums. And that, again, is something that students have to take into account and have to make good decisions about where they're studying and what they're studying. And that information, too, is now much more readily available than it used to be in the past. Students can look up what is the typical earning path for someone who pursues this major, who attends this institution, and again, make smart choices.
So, Melissa, as you look at the decline in enrollment, what about the demographics of it? Is it affecting some people more than others?
Yeah, the decline in enrollment has been much larger among men than women, which is, women are doing better overall when it comes to young women getting college degrees, and so this is worrisome. And the pandemic-related decline was especially pronounced among non-white men. Again, this is another reason why these trends are particularly worrisome. We think a college degree is a great engine of upward mobility, and we worry if kids from lower income homes, from non-white families in particular, are the ones who disproportionately had their college-going plans knocked off track.
All right, so there you go. They're putting it right on the money. You can hear what's going on, and still the message, the big message that the lady was conveying is you're still better off in most circumstances if you're choosing the right career field, if you're choosing the right schools to attend. You're better off. Now, there's a statement she made, and I want to dig into this. I want to probe into this. She said with a four-year college degree that you would earn 88% more per year. I don't know if she actually meant that. That's a significant amount. You're talking almost double. I'm not saying it's not true, but it just doesn't sound correct to me. I didn't think it was that much more than a non-college graduate. I mean, again, like I say, 88% is almost double. The other thing, African American males right now are one of the biggest segments of the population that it happens to be choosing not to attend college. Now, on the one hand, if they're engaging in business opportunities, if they're going to get some of those technical skills and everything that doesn't require 4-year degrees, I say that's great. They're headed in the right direction, because still, again, even once they attain that, they can always attend college later if they did want to pursue it. Many times, if you're on a job, once you work for a certain period of time, they have education assistance programs that you can capitalize on. I've done that, myself. And you can kind of do two things at one time, or make that money now, or make that money after 6 months learning some technical skill. And then, like I say, getting your feet wet on the job, and maybe going back and you can pursue, or you could, a person, I think that would be smart if you actually said, let me get these skills, and I'm going to get them on the job training. I'm going to learn this, but I'm going to take what I've learned and apply it back into my own business. And that's where this would really come in good, or how you can really capitalize on this thing, is to let the job pay for your education, let it teach you some additional skills, and then utilize those to set up your own business. What else I want to say? Well, I'll tell you what, I want to move right in. There's one other little short excerpt that I would like for you to check out. This one is it's about 3 minutes, like 3 minutes long. It's entitled, "Why is College Enrollment Dropping?" And like I say, it's like 3 minutes and 8 seconds. So check that out, and I'll come back before we go into break, and we'll, get to comment on it.
First-generation college student Kyla Aguirre wasn't sure she'd return to MSU Denver for her senior year when the pandemic hit in 2020.
My husband and I mean, honestly, we were thinking about what I was going to do this next year, because we honestly can't afford it.
Like Aguirre, more students are choosing to leave higher education or not pursue a degree at all. A 2022 Gallup poll found about a third of enrolled students pursuing a bachelor's degree considered withdrawing for a semester or more. The top reasons: emotional stress, COVID-19, and cost. And some students are leaving college altogether, causing a drop in enrollment. Findings show there are around 9% fewer students on college campuses today compared to 2 years ago. That's a loss of nearly 1.4 million students.
College is the safest path to middle and upper class income in this country. That's true. But there is an evolution happening that I think young people are onto.
Beth Akers focuses on the economics of higher education as a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. She says the decline reflects students questioning whether a degree is worth the cost. The Education Data Initiative found the cost of college has more than doubled in the 21st century. Each year, the cost has gone up about 7% on average, and more Americans are turning to loans to foot the bill, with the average student loan debt at nearly $38,000. The combination of cost and option-conscious prospective students is forcing institutions to re-examine their approach.
We've had tips before. We manage it to the best of our ability, but at some point then you do have to step in and make some drastic decisions.
Another variable is the competitive labor market, which is enticing some prospective students to enter the workforce and bypass college.
When a high school student can graduate today and walk out of high school and potentially earn $20 an hour or more, and then they wonder why they have to pay us $10,000 a year to get an education, that's a reasonable question that we ought to be ready to answer.
And schools with no answers are having to close their doors. A Wall Street Journal report found the number of institutions closing in the last decade has quadrupled compared to the previous 10 years. Some education advocates say there's also less school funding, making for fewer financial aid opportunities. The National Education Association says 32 states spent less on public colleges and universities in 2020 than in 2008. But some say college is still worth the investment.
Return on investment is really, really important. A lot of our students earn degrees in engineering, in computer science, and in business, where the starting salaries are quite high. Our average starting salary is $75,000 for students who graduate, $75,000 a year.
The range of options is opening possibilities to a new generation, learning valuable life lessons outside of the classroom. I'm Lauren Magarino reporting.
All right, so there you go again. Some more information for you, and kind of enlightening. Some information that was provided there. I imagine you're probably shaking your head. Schools, institutions have quadrupled in a number that are shutting down. Wow, I'm just wondering what will be the impact on society on a whole, here in the United States, when you have other nations where they're trying to get in and, trying to do as much schooling as possible, and we're shutting them down left and right. The other thing that was mentioned was the last gentleman who was speaking, and I didn't get the name of his company, but his starting salary, he said, for those with a 4-year degree, happens to be about $75,000 a year, which is very, very good, I would say. Again, I would imagine that he's probably in some upwardly mobile geographic location. It's hard for me to believe that that person in Arkansas and Tennessee and Mississippi would be getting that $75,000 a year starting out. I just wonder about that. It sounds more like California, New York, Washington, D.C., type of environment. And it could be different. I know even down in North Carolina, around the Raleigh area, they're making some pretty good salaries right now, some really good salaries. But just enlightening. All this stuff is very, very enlightening. What else was stated here? It was like 1.4 million drop in student enrollment right now. 1.4 million. Now that really gets to be significant. So anyway, there it is. You can see college enrollment is down for whatever reason it happens to be. Hopefully, if you want to listen to the program and you're of college age, you just graduated from high school, or if you don't go to college, at least do something that's positive. Make sure you make the right decision. Do something that's going to have a major impact on your life, from a positive means. And that's my advice, to you. Now, what we're going to be doing is getting ready to go into a break a little bit sooner. I like to do it a couple of minutes later, but because I've got my partner who I told you about, he's actually a priest. He's a Catholic priest, Father Jean-Claude Adesumesu, who's going to be coming on in the second half. He's going to be in the spotlight, and we're going to be talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo and maybe some other countries over in Africa, and some of the history, where things are, what's been going on, and the opportunities that exist. Now, I have to credit this man. I have to credit him with introducing me to so many dignitaries. Even the present day president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, I got to meet him, got photos and everything with him. As it's all a result of Father Jean-Claude Adesumesu. So what we're going to do now, I want to get you in the right mood again. We're going to do our halftime break-in. Here's a tune by Q-Tip, and he's featuring Erykah Badu. And this is entitled Poetry. It's a very smooth, laid-back cut. Anytime you put Erykah Badu in there, she's always going to jazz it up and make it feel real good. But anyway, just check this out. We're going to come back, and I'm going to have Father Jean-Claude Adesumesu on, and we're going to take it from there. So enjoy. I'll see you. Have you invested years preparing for a successful career, but now find yourself working a dead-end job, living paycheck to paycheck and unhappy with life? Platinum Dynamic Institute introduces a brand new program designed to develop a special breed of entrepreneurs who are dedicated to rebuilding Black communities locally and abroad. Welcome to Sankofa Business Alliance Afro Entrepreneur Coaching Program. This 90-day program prepares you to succeed in business by giving you the fundamentals essential for success. Through Sankofa Business Alliance Afro Entrepreneur Coaching Program, you will discover your life's purpose, build your dream business, and learn to find your business model. You also gain access to business opportunities, travel and network with other like-minded people, and gain access to free training through our affiliation with top-rated universities in the world. To get started, call me directly at 800-433-6249 or go to our website at platinumdynamicinstitute.com.